I got snowed in today, so I figured I'd use the time to add one small function to my project. I wrote a function called check raycast for stack that runs when I release the mouse. If I drop a card over another card, it prints out a debug log saying stacked. If I drop it over nothing, it says nothing underneath. This is basically the first step towards a real stacking system. Now I'm going to go through the changes that I made in the card behavior.cs. There was really only two changes that I did. On the on mouse up button, I created a custom function and called that function after setting is dragging to false. And then here, this is my custom function. It's going to be very small. Private void check raycast for stack. Private mean that it is only referenced in this script. Void means that it is not returning anything for right now. And then check raycast for stack is the custom name. The if camera is equal to null return. This is a kind of defensive programming. I need the camera because I'm still going to be using rays from the mouse position. So if I don't have the camera, I get kicked out of the function. The next is creating a ray. So very similar to the other one, this is going to take a mouse position 2D screen space. It's going to convert it into a 3D ray. It starts at my camera and it shoots forward through the mouse cursor into the world. Then I'm going to be creating an array called raycast hits. This is going to record the collider, distance, point, and normal of all of the objects that the ray hits. Then I'm going to iterate through this array. So for each raycast hit H in hits, I'm going to pass it through an if statement. So if the hCollider.game object is equal to the game object, so this is referencing itself, then I want to continue or skip past that iteration. The mouse will always be above the card, so it will always, the ray will always hit the game object that I am holding. I want to ignore that part in the array. The next statement, else if hCollider.getComponent card behavior is not equal to null, this is checking to see are there any other cards that are underneath the ray or underneath the card that is referencing itself. If there is, I just want to return a debug log called stacked and then afterwards get kicked out of the function. Otherwise, if this is null, meaning that there's nothing assigned in the array, then there's nothing underneath, and I want to write a debug log saying nothing underneath. Alright, so here's what I have so far. I can click and drag a card around the board, and when I release the mouse, my script shoots a ray from the camera through the mouse cursor to check what I dropped the card on. So here I'm going to drop the card on nothing, and it'll say nothing underneath, but then I can drop the card on another card, and it'll say stacked. The next thing I want to work on is actually positioning the dropped card onto the base card with a small offset in the XYZ so it visually looks like I stacked it on top. Ideally, I want this to work not just for 2 cards, but for huge stacks like Stacklands, where every new card gets a slightly higher Y and maybe a tiny X and Z shift, so you can still see the stack. Alternatively, I could add tweening, basically in betweening, so when the card is released it doesn't instantly snap from the drag height to the rest height. Instead, it would smoothly ease downward to simulate gravity, which would make the movement feel way more satisfying and physical. That's it for this quick progress update. Thanks for watching, and if you have any suggestions or see something I'm doing wrong, definitely leave a comment. I'm learning this step by step. Stay safe out there, especially if you're dealing with this weather, and I'll see you in the next update.